This is Bruno from Spainguru.es, and this is the Moving to Spain webinar. Today is the 27th January 2026, and we're going to first have a presentation, then a Q&A session at the end. Also, let me remind you that on February 11th, there's going to be a Ask Me Anything Q&A session with Ainhoa Manero, expert immigration lawyer. So we co-host that webinar, so you can ask any questions regarding moving to Spain. Good morning. How are you? California. Wow, that's so early. Thank you so much for waking up early. And yes, it's a great opportunity to ask any questions related to immigration and anything basically about moving to Spain. So you can join it. It is free, and I always send you a recording. What will you gain today from today's webinar? Hopefully, a clear and realistic roadmap to move to Spain, how to avoid the most common and costly mistakes, how to choose the right location, visa, and budget, and what to do first, next, and last. The content of this webinar is for information purposes only and is not legal nor financial advice. Welcome from Connecticut. Thank you so much for joining today. The objective of Spainguru is facilitating the relocation process for English-speaking foreigners to Spain since 2014. You can find great reviews out there, almost 300 five-star reviews, so you're in very good hands. And you can use Spainguru.es for free. You can join our weekly newsletter with more than 15,000 members, YouTube channel with more than 1,000 videos and more than 8,200 subscribers. You have 8 free webinars that you can join today. And you can find also community support and visa guides and more than 2,000 articles. And you can also join a huge community with more than 150,000 members. In fact, yesterday I released regional Facebook groups, regional hubs for all these areas, 9 areas in Spain, and that you can join today. They're absolutely, of course, free to join. Now, if you need expert advice, you can find on the services tab from immigration experts to tax advisors to financial planners, health insurance for your visas, and so much more, all personally vetted by me. I have been recommending my partners for several years so far, and many of them I have used them personally, so you're in good hands. Relevant to this webinar as well is the Move to Spain checklist, step-by-step checklist that you can find on the homepage of Spainguru.es. Now let's go with the presentation. And moving to Spain is a project divided into different stages that may or not overlap depending on your circumstances. But if I had to choose an order, I would start first with the vision, then with the schedule, then choose a destination, set a budget, choose my immigration eligibility or check it, how to find housing, arrival steps, how to build a community, and the emotional journey. With all those 9 steps or stages, you are pretty much covered. The most important, in my opinion, as a basis for the whole decision or project to move to Spain is the vision. Why is the vision so important? Because it is the foundation of your decision of moving to Spain, and it should and will guide every decision that you make on the way. Your vision has to contain your lifestyle choices. You need to define what an ideal day in Spain would be, how you see your work-life balance, your social life, leisure activities, where those activities would happen. Would it be a city, coastal town, inland? You have to be close to amenities, practical amenities like hospitals, schools, shopping areas, transportation, airports, etc. Then if you have cultural priorities, yes, those also should play a role in defining your vision, right? And you go from small, thinking about on a day-to-day basis, to a year-to-year basis, like longer-term goals. Are you planning to stay in Spain, learning Spanish, potentially even becoming Spaniard? Yes. And you have to be a bit selfish, like choose 3 non-negotiables. What are the 3 things that you definitely must have when you move to Spain? That's very important. So you start with that. You define your 3 non-negotiables. Step 2, you visualize your perfect day. First, thinking in the morning, afternoon, and evening, but then you zoom out, yes, in the time frame. And you think weekdays versus weekends. What are you going to do during the weekends and during the weekdays? And then you zoom out and go for months. What are you going to do in January, March, in August? Yes, Christmas time. Yes, how do you see the next year and the following years, right? And then zooming out the next years. Are you planning just to spend one sabbatical year in Spain? Are you potentially open to staying here long term, go for the long term residence after 5 years, potentially applying for citizenship? And then you go to step 3, where you can be creative, maybe take some magazines, maybe draw something, think about images, pictures, books, phrases that describe, yes, the vision that you have for your life in Spain. Step 4 is extremely important because either you're moving by yourself or you're moving with your partner or with your family. You need to share your vision, yes, in order to receive feedback, right? Because the vision is a dream, an idea, yes, but you need to work on it so it becomes real with time so that you can execute that idea, right? So sharing with your partner so you're also aligned, so you have the same ideas, or you have to negotiate things. It's very important. If you're moving by yourself alone, it's important to share with others, okay? And not only with friends or families if you can, but also joining potentially communities like Facebook groups from people who are moving to Spain or already in Spain, yes, and receive their feedback. All that is very important. And step number 5, you start moving from idea to execution. You start building an action plan. What can you do then during the next 30 days to get you closer to that vision? Have a video on Spainguru's group, the number 1 thing you must do before moving to Spain, that explains you how to do this vision workshop. Now, this is a noisy slide. These are all the tools that are free online that I think you should use for your investigation part, okay? Because I'm sure that one of the third things that you will write in what you can do in the next 30 days in order to move to Spain will be, well, start investigating, right? So first of all, of course, Google, YouTube, AI tools, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Claude. Then, very important, people forget about this one, Google Maps and Street View. This is very, very important. Spain is different than the US, than UK, than Canada. For example, in the US, people in the US are more used to commuting with the cars, yes, and longer distances. Spain is more walkable, etc. So looking that in the maps, you know, the structure of the cities, the distances, how the street looks is really, really important. Then you have Weather Spark, another free tool just to compare the weather in up 7 cities at once. Yes. So you can check data, historical data of any city in the world and compare them. Okay. For example, Valencia against San Diego, right? And see perfectly how the two climates compare. It's a wonderful tool. Idealista is the biggest, largest real estate portal in Spain, Portugal, and Italy. It gives a lot of data. Numbeo.com is a community-based platform that mainly shares the cost of living and the price of groceries. Not only that, but also crime index, perception, or quality of life index, right? And for the bigger cities, it is quite reliable. Of course, it's based on people who input their data or their perceptions, but since the numbers, you know, are very big, I think they are quite accurate. So definitely very useful, especially for building your budget and taking other decisions. Joining Facebook groups, very, very important. Go to spainguru.es, you go to community, and maybe I have here, go to community here, Facebook groups, and this I was just designing this page. There's a little bit broken, but you have here more than 23 groups that you can join. Okay, immigration, lucrative visa, and so much more. Yes, basically the server is getting updated now, so it doesn't look very good, but soon it will do. So 23 groups that you can join today. And of course, Spainguru.es is a fantastic free tool that you can use, where you can also find experts that have been personally vetted. So all those tools are very important for investigation. Then we move to stage number 2, schedule, roadmap, right? So why do you need to have a roadmap? Well, it is a huge thing to move to Spain, especially if you move, to retire in Spain. You already have many years behind you. You have investments, you have family and friends, you have a lot of things. Maybe you need to sell a house, you need to ship things on a container. So many things. Getting a visa, arranging your finances. So having a project, having a roadmap is essential, right? And it will keep you organized and reduce stress. So you will have to set up deadlines, okay? And understanding that when you apply for visas, you will have to gather documentations that expire and they need to be valid when you apply. And you will need to anticipate seasonal factors, like, for example, holidays. Yes, during the summertime and during Christmas, consulates are understaffed and decisions take longer. And also deadlines for taxes, like becoming Spanish tax resident during a certain tax year is an important factor in your decision when you move to Spain. So you'll need to start building your timeline, right? And the way you do it is that first you set your move date, and hopefully you allow enough time to do it. Like, for example, from 1 year in advance, right? And then you work backwards from there, adding all the things that you need to do in order to hit that goal, right? So you will identify sub-projects within the big project of moving to Spain, or milestones, like visa application, like selling your home in your home country, or finding a home in Spain, quitting your job, or maybe job transition or school transition for your kids, finding schools in Spain, right? So all those things will depend on your personal circumstances, right? And then you will assign different time frames for each of those subtasks. And then one recommendation and tip: be patient, because bureaucracy and the fact that we don't control everything around us will bring us delays and things that we don't control. So it's important to be patient and to be flexible, and to also be conservative in our predictions. Yes. So always allow a certain margin of error for all your planning. So this is a workshop for this. Step 1, define your ideal move dates. Step 2, define the milestones. Step 3, the time frames. And number 4, we're going to add something new, which is anticipating challenges. This is a big one, trust me, because we potentially never move to a new country, or we never move to Spain, or and there are many things that, well, if we had to think about challenges that we will face, not only will depend on our personal situation, but there are things that we don't even know we will face, right? How do we find out those? Well, this is one of the other reasons why being part of a community is extremely important. Joining those groups is essential. I ask many people who move to Spain, I ask them, like, what was the role of joining the groups? And they say, like, absolutely, like, essential, key, crucial, because you can read about other people's experiences moving to Spain, what problems they faced, how they solved them, and things change all the time. So really, really, this is very, very important. I can't stress that enough, right? So another way to see your timeline or schedule is also a Gantt chart. Yes, here you have, it's like a table, right? You see every column is a month. You start 1 year before, and then you set up your milestones. You assign different time frames for each of them, right? And then you start executing. As you can see, in choosing your vision is the first thing. Choosing a destination or a list of places that potentially fit your vision comes first. But then you go into checking your immigration eligibility, checking your tax planning, setting up a budget according to your lifestyle and where you potentially would move, writing a schedule with timeframes, etc. And then you will review your vision. Yes, after you started investigating and seeing, potential red flags or things that didn't fit your vision, etc., you will review your vision. It's not bad to change your vision. It's not set on stone, but you need to work on it. So it really becomes the basis and the guidance in all your decisions. And now we're going to go deeper into each one of those milestones. And this is a slide that I borrowed from the No Lucrative Visa webinar. The old one, I actually updated it because some things changed. But for the purpose of this, it's enough. You see that this is specifically about the visa application, and in particular, the non-lucrative visa, which has certain specifics. Like, for example, you can only apply from a Spanish consulate abroad. You cannot do it from Spain, like the non-lucrative, like the digital nomad visa, for example. And also, they keep your passport. And if you are from the UK, it's hard to get a second passport while they're processing the visa. But if you are from the US, you can have easily a second passport to travel. So all the things we have a big impact, right? As you can see, we have to gather official certificates, new ones that expire, that have certain validity times, and they need to be valid at the time of application, like background check, birth certificates if you're moving with children, marriage certificate if you're moving with your wife or husband. Then you have to apostille all these certificates, won't translate them, allow time for doing that. Getting financial documents from your banks, like bank statements, tax returns, medical certificates from a doctor, health insurance in the case of this visa, unless you're a UK retiree. And of course, getting an appointment, that is a huge bottleneck lately. Okay, so all those things you need to plan. And of course, you can help yourself with powerful tools, free tools like Trello, which is a card-based project management tool that you write your columns like to-do list, in progress and done, and you just move the tasks from left to right, just like software developers do. But then you can also use Google Sheets or Excel. This is what most people use. It keeps everything in one place, but unfortunately, it's not as powerful as it doesn't have like deadlines. It doesn't have alarms or anything. But yeah, probably good enough. Okay. And as I said, joining in the groups is essential because you also find out what is going on in terms of timeframes, what to expect. Like right now, for example, Manchester Consulate, it's insane. It's like people more than 14 weeks waiting for the visas, etc., right? So if you're not part of the community, you would be like in the darkness and without knowing if it's what to expect. So that's very, very important. Now let's talk about destination, number 3, right? Choosing where to go in Spain. Key factors to decide, of course, climate and geography, right? The community and culture, the essential amenities we mentioned, like access to healthcare, schools, transport, etc. Cost of living is a big one, right? And it can be extremely granular, meaning in the same city, you can have very expensive neighborhoods and very affordable neighborhoods, of course, for a reason, right? Now, if we go to climate, basically Spain is divided in 3 climates. In orange, you have the Mediterranean climate, which is mild and rainy winter, hot and sunny summer, and this is where most of the population concentrates. Then you have the north part, in green, oceanic climate, cool and rainy, okay? And you have the center of Spain, which is very hot and dry during the summer, and in the winter is dry but very cold. Yes, so as I said, you can use weatherspark.com. It's free. You can compare the different metrics for climate, like even chance of clear skies, precipitation, muggy conditions, and you can learn a lot about different areas and compare them with areas that you already know how they are, so you know what to expect. Right? Another big one is the terrain. A lot of people, like me, for example, I have 2 small children and still need to push the stroller with 2 children in them because my children are only 1 year and 2 months separate. So I just really can't push my stroller uphill very much, And this is a big thing in Spain because they say that it's the second most mountainous country in Europe after Switzerland, which is not an entirely scientific statement, but I can tell you that most cities have hills, of course, and they're close to mountains. There you can see Barcelona, for example. Yes, and this can have an impact in your accessibility, right? Especially if you're retiring. This is important. So another free tool is this one, topographic-map.com, which tells you the differences in the different neighborhoods, and also it's free. You can do it from your computer. So to evaluate the different the different neighborhoods as well, because that has a strong impact. Where I live in Malaga, Malaga is very, very hilly. There's not too many flat neighborhoods. So it's important to identify those to narrow down your list of places that you are considering, right? And also other factors, of course. We're talking about the costs, okay, of moving to the different neighborhoods. For that, can help you idealista.com, as we mentioned, fotocasa.es, okay, numbeo.com for cost of living. And last but not least, I will mention that I highly recommend you doing a scouting trip to visit Spain, okay, for a certain amount of time, the longer you can, yes, and to live the city, right? To live the city. And I recently released a video last week, that basically I put together all the tips from the community of what they wish they knew before doing their scouting trip, okay? But now that they have done it and now they're living in Spain, etc., they can recommend you what to do in the scouting trip. And this video has a lot of views and a lot of likes because, in my opinion, it's a great video. It has everything you need to know if you're planning to do a scouting trip, because it's really like, it's not being a tourist doing a scouting trip. You are there to investigate and to live the life as if you were living already in Spain. So definitely watch that video. Yes, and I will add it to the presentation maybe for next time. Of course, I can help you also if you read the top destinations in Spainguru.es. Yes, you go to, and those 13 destinations concentrate 90% of the places where foreigners move to Spain, and they are linked in real time with all the tools that I mentioned. So you have updated information and so much more. There's also more videos about what places to choose on Spainguru's YouTube channel. So definitely, yes, go there, subscribe, give likes to the videos, and enjoy. Now let's talk about budget. This is, of course, extremely important. All the stages are important, all the 9 stages, but budgeting, of course, is huge. And you need to basically divide into your expenses. The one-off expenses that happen only once, and then the recurrent expenses, like paying your rent or mortgage or healthcare or utilities or groceries, etc., right? You will have to think about the cost of living variations. First of all, cities versus rural areas, coastline versus inland, etc., right? Something that people forget, taking into account taxes, right? Because taxes in Spain tend to be on the higher range, okay, of the countries of the Western Hemisphere. So you have to also consider that in your budget. And you don't need to be extremely perfect or scientific. You just need to be cautious and conservative, right? And realistic. So investigate, and always keep a cushion of at least 3 to 6 months, okay, for unexpected costs, okay? So other things to anticipate is currency fluctuations, banking challenges, fees, etc. Okay, so many people who move to Spain also warn or recommend others to open online platforms or banking platforms earlier, like Wise or N26 or Revolut, this kind of accounts, or also for moving larger amounts of money, like Currencies Direct, etc. You can find on Spainguru.es even some discounts as well. And other things that you need to into account is the renewals of your visas, okay, your residencies. For example, non-lucrative residency, after just 1 year of your first or initial arrival into Spain, you already have to renew, and you have to renew for 2 more years. And then you need to prove that you have enough money to spend or to sustain yourself during that 2-year period. Or when your digital nomad visa residency ends, you need again to be over a certain threshold to be eligible for the renewal, etc. So you always have to plan that into advance, okay? Of course, for the tax part, please engage with a professional. You can join my free webinar on taxes so that you can have more informed conversations with tax professionals. And of course, at least tax advisors and immigration lawyers. 1 hour consultation with each one of them, I think it should be essential at the very least, right? I mentioned cost of living provided by Numbeo. There you can have a screenshot that can be used to make sure that you're on the realistic side of things when you come into expenses. And also joining the groups, a lot of people, they build their budgets and then they publish them there anonymously in Facebook group and say like, oh, we're a family of 4. Take a look to my budget. Is it realistic? Yes or no? And people comment, right? And you get feedback. So it's very, very interesting also on that part of things, right? So it's very important. And of course, the budget will heavily depend on your lifestyle. It's not the same if you dine out every single night or if you cook at home, if you travel a lot, if you go back to the States every year 3 times, that's expensive. And huge one is where you're going to live. Are you going to rent? Are you going to buy a property? Are you going to buy it with a mortgage, etc.? Right? That is a huge factor. Okay. So that's very important to have in mind, right? And if you need help with your budget plan, inside my Move to Spain checklist, you have in the first chapter, the third card is create a relocation budget. There you have a long video on how to do it, and also a Google Sheet that is free that you can download. It's very, very simple. That lists very, very common categories that you need to include so that you don't forget anything, right? You just get into it and you make a copy. Okay, you select File, make a copy, and then you have your own copy and you can edit it the way you want. Okay. And this is what I was talking about a family who asked, they just shared this on a Facebook group. This is our budget. You see, what do you think? And this is what people were commenting. Healthy budget, well calculated. Housing cost is the X factor, depends on location. Could you are wearing what type of home? Is it a villa? Depends where, etc. You need more like a 10% buffer. The car insurance estimate might be a bit too low. This is the kind of feedback that you want to receive, okay? To tweak your numbers and be realistic, conservative, and cautious. We mentioned taxes again, right? So this is a very quick overview. First of all, tax residency in Spain. You're a Spanish tax resident. You could be considered to be one by Spanish tax authorities if any of these 3 conditions apply. If you spend more than 183 days in Spain per calendar year from January 1st to December 31st, they don't need to be consecutive. It doesn't matter your immigration status. If you're a tourist, if you're illegal, if you came with a visa, doesn't matter. Your physical presence counts. 1 minute in Spanish soil counts as a single day, right? So if you're over that threshold, you could be considered Spanish tax resident. Second, if your main economic center is in Spain, or your main economic, let's say your main income source is from within Spain, or if your family lives in Spain, right? And what happens if you become a Spanish tax resident? It means that you could be liable to pay taxes on your worldwide income and potentially on the net value of your assets via the regional wealth tax and solidarity tax, right? So that's very important. Other taxes, well, taxes to have in mind: income tax due on June 30th, the annual income tax. And generally, taxes at progressive rates from 19% to 47%. The regional wealth tax, depending where you live in Spain, you could apply or not, or has lower or higher threshold. Then you have the nationwide solidarity tax starting at 3 million euros plus 700,000 euros of allowance. And then you have informative forms, not properly a tax. It's the Modelo 720 form where you declare the existence of foreign assets, right? If they are over a certain value threshold, 50,000 euros. And the deadline is very soon, March 31st. Then there is the capital gains tax, tax at 19% to 30%, progressive tax brackets that could apply if you sell your home in your origin country during the year in which you become a Spanish tax resident. So it's important to understand how to potentially avoid it if you can. Inheritance and gift tax is a regional tax here. So depending where you are, where your assets are located, the relationship with heirs, etc. Then there is the transfer tax, EV, all those taxes, okay, transfer tax. If you buy a property in Spain, that's a regional tax. Cheapest is Madrid, then Andalusia. The higher ones are Catalonia, Valencia. Okay, so all those things you need to understand before taking the decision where to move. And remember that there is also a special tax regime, especially thought to for employees moving to Spain, and not so much contractors and not at all for retirees. That will enable you to pay only 24% flat rate for employment income worldwide. But of course, eligibility is very, very narrow to certain cases. So this is important, but can be scary, of course, but it's manageable with advice and also proper preparation. So that's why I have a free webinar. You can join today, watch my recordings. I did one yesterday, and I uploaded it to YouTube. How Spanish taxes. I'm not a tax advisor, but I give you a proper overview of how taxes work here, so that when you sit down with a tax advisor, you know better what you're asking. So now let's talk about immigration. Some people say that you should start by this, and not so much about with the vision and your dreams about living in Spain. Like, why dreaming if you are not eligible for any type of visa or residency, right? So of course, this is up to you. In my opinion, first you need to decide why you would move to Spain, right? Because there's always a way to move to Spain, in my opinion, right? The most common ways is non-lucrative visa for non-EU nationals who have the financial means to live without working in Spain. The digital nomad visa for remote workers earning outside of Spain. Then you have ordinary or common general work visa, an entrepreneur visa for those with a Spanish job or a business plan with their own projects. Then you have a student visa, okay, which is quite fast and easy to obtain, but be careful, it doesn't count towards your residency requirements for the long-term residency, or for, it counts half the time, and it doesn't count for Spanish citizenship because it's not properly a residency, it's a permiso de estancia. And then remember golden visa, the famous investment visa, it's gone. It's ended on April 3rd, 2025. So it's very important that you are also, again, advised on what your, let's say, short, mid, and long-term strategy are in order to stay in Spain, because the Spanish bureaucracy is a behemoth. It's huge, and it's, every mistake is paid dearly, unfortunately, and you need to establish the right timeline and what to do if you plan to stay in Spain for the longer term. So it's better that you always consult with an expert immigration lawyer, right? Now, if you're applying for a specific visa type that will grant you a residency later on, remember that you have to gather a lot of documentation, and you need to legalize and soon translate. They expire after 3 or 6 months. Sometimes, in most cases, you will need to get a compliant health insurance. Okay, and by compliant, I mean that generally the health insurance policy needs to be, first of all, fully coverage, no co-payments, 0 waiting times, etc., etc. So not all the policies work. So you can, of course, find my recommended partners on spainguru.us. You're in very, very good hands. And I have specific visa webinars that you can join for free if you haven't done so. And of course, receive a free recording, non-lucrative visa, digital nomad visa. And I'm also doing collaborations with experts on different fields related to immigration. Now let's talk about number six, housing, right? And we're talking about when you arrive to Spain, where you go to live. What are my recommendations, right? A lot of people say, like, renting in Spain is very expensive. There's a housing crisis. Maybe I should buy a home. My recommendation is keep it flexible at the beginning. Learn what you're doing. Learn the market. Learn the areas. Okay, until you're living there, you don't know what's going to happen, and it could be very costly if you buy a property and then you're not happy with any of that, with the property itself or with the area or whatever you want to move. It's not very flexible once you bought property. So always keep it flexible at the beginning, and once you're sure, you know the market, and you know what is a good operation, then execute, right? So that's important. You can use idealista.com for gathering data, and as you can see, this is the euro price per square meter for rentals in Spain by province, and then there's a zoom in into Valencia. And like everywhere, location, location, location. It will depend where you're renting. It's going to be higher price, lower price, and of course, there's going to be a reason for all of that. Yes, you can see also not only the differences in prices among the bigger cities like Barcelona, 24 euros per square meter versus Bilbao, only 15, but also you can see the progression that it has been raising over 10% minimum everywhere in Spain on a year-on-year basis. So it's going up, and it doesn't stop. In the last years after COVID, this is what's going on. So it's important to also to understand how fast things are happening. Yes. Some tips to secure your home. First of all, try to avoid high season in coastal areas. For example, is the summer, but in Madrid, like the summer is low season because Madrileños, they live to the coast on holidays. So understand what seasonality means in the different markets. Be careful with scams, hidden fees, and misleading listings. Okay, at the beginning, you can feel like the Wild West, the Spanish real estate market. But once you become a little bit more proficient, or let's say, yes, exposed to it, you will start understanding the rules behind it, right? But it's a little bit more, let's say, less organized, like, for example, in the States, much less. And part of that is because realtors here are not an organized profession. They don't need to pass an exam. Anyone can be a realtor here if they have something to sell or rent out. I could become a realtor today if you give me your home so I can sell it, yes, and charge a commission. There's no regulation on that. And that can feel a bit different because the incentives for realtors is to sell or rent what they have in their portfolio, and they don't have access to a multi-listing service like in the US, where you arrive to a city, you contact a realtor, and you say, like, this is what I want, and they have access to all the real estate in that particular area, and they will search whatever matches best for you because they don't care. They will still get a commission. Here, no. They need to sell you something in their portfolio, right? So that's their incentive. So once you understand that, you will understand also the remaining parts of the puzzle. So another things to have in mind, or tips, is be careful about the contracts that you sign. There are different rental laws, depending if you're renting a room in a shared apartment, if you're renting a full apartment, if you're renting for short term, for mid or long term, if you're renting from a company versus from a individual landlord. So it's always good to seek legal advice for that. Another extra challenge that foreigners face when they arrive to Spain is that they don't have prior work experience, like prior work records. And why can that be a problem? Situation is that in Spain there are strong tenant protection laws, so there is a big fear of tenants who stop paying the rent, and eviction is very slow. It can take even years. So landlords, many Spanish landlords will demand the full payment protection, but insurers want Spanish work history in order to insure you against default payments. So, for example, non-lucrative visa holders or anyone basically who moves to Spain without prior work history in Spain lacks this work history, and therefore they can't be insured, and then landlords will hesitate to rent to them. Yeah, so it is a little bit of a catch-22 situation. Having said this, I never met anyone who had to go back to their home country because they didn't find a place to live, but many people report, like in these screenshots that I just shared, facing extra difficulties. And of course, because everybody wants to go to live to the same places, where everyone else wants to live. Nobody goes in the middle of nowhere. You probably heard about the España vacía, the empty Spain. Like 90% of the Spanish territory is less populated than Lapland, in the north of Scandinavia, right? So nobody wants to go there, right? Everybody wants to be in the Mediterranean, etc., etc. And that's why there's a huge competition in those areas. Now, it's about 7, arrival. Some tips your arrival to Spain. Once you get to Spain, with your visa and your passport, with everything else, there are a few steps that are recommended, right? So this is a short list. Actually, there are more steps, but I don't want you to be crazy. First of all, it's important that you prove that you enter Spain on a certain date. So if you enter from outside of Schengen, the Schengen area is a group of 29 countries, which is internally borderless in Europe. So if you enter from outside of Spain directly into Spain from outside of Schengen, you will get a stamp or a scan on your of your face and eyes and your fingerprints now that there is a new entry system called EES being rolled out until April 2026. Basically, you will have a proof of your entry into Spain. This is important. But if you travel from outside of Schengen to another Schengen country and then you enter Spain within Schengen, you will not have an immigration control. How do you prove when you enter Spain? Some people said, oh, I used my gas tickets from the car, or I used boarding passes from my flight from Frankfurt, and the policeman accepted it. But some people said the policeman didn't accept it and asked me, and they said that I had to get out from Schengen. So the best way you can do it is get a one-page document called Declaración de Entrada. Okay, if you search, Declaration of Entry, this is a one-page document that the police station stamps you on arrival at the police station in every airport or train station or close to the border, and that proves that you enter Spain. Second thing, once you rent a place in a city in Spain, get an empadronamiento, which is the registration of the rental contract at the city hall, and they will give you a certificate that proves your address. And this certificate is essential for many things, like later getting your residency card. 3, open a non-resident bank account. Even if you already open like your Wise account or N26 or Revolut accounts online, it's always good to have a non-resident bank account from a brick and mortar bank. Okay, and there's many suggestions from the community, but it is important that you can pay very well your utilities, your rent, etc. Okay, so that you don't have any problems. Then get also a Spanish SIM card or eSIM card, depending on your phone. Many Americans can't have physical SIM cards. Brits, usually they have the more options to have the physical SIM cards because of the phones they have. But basically, what the point here I'm trying to make is that you need to have full control over your American or UK or Canadian phone number and be able to receive 2FAs, messages, SMSs from your banks, from whatever, from your home country, and also from Spain, because authorities, when you start doing your procedures, they will send you SMS that you need to click links, or when you start your bank account in Spain, they will send you a lot of SMS. So it's important to have access to both, right? And as I said, applying for your residency card, depending how you enter Spain, with visa you enter Spain, but basically you need to obtain a residency card after a certain time. If you are under a non-lucrative visa, you officially have 30 days to get an appointment at the National Police Station, which never happens because there's not too many appointments. It's a huge bottleneck right now. It can take months, even weeks, even months. So, but yeah, basically you need to get your residency card. And then some bonus tips here is that applying for the digital certificate, which is different from the clave. Both are let's say, digital signatures that help you do procedures from the comfort of your home. And for that, normally you will have to show your ID to a person or via digital means. Okay, but basically you either download a software in your computer or you get a certain app in your phone, and with that you can sign those procedures online. And also driver's license. So typically you have 6 months to drive with your own license, and you should add an international driving license together with your home country driving license. But then after 6 months of living in Spain, you need to have a Spanish license. So for that, depending whether Spain has an agreement with your home country, for example, with the UK, you can just switch from the UK driving license into Spanish one, or from Argentina, where I'm from, there is an agreement. I could switch it for $30. But for example, USA or Mexico or Canada or Australia, they don't have this agreement. So you'll have to get a Spanish driving license, passing the test. Okay, so the practical test and also the theoretical test. Okay, after 6 months. So that's important that you plan ahead for all those things. And as I mentioned, these are the brick and mortar banks that normally have non-resident bank accounts. And I mentioned that people use money platforms like Wise in order to send, or to convert dollars or pounds or Canadian dollars into euros. So that's the way you do it. First of all, you have your account. For example, you have a Chase account in the States. You go to Wise, you open your Wise account, and inside Wise, you can have several accounts, local accounts from all those different countries. So this is my Wise account. I have an account in the US, in US dollars. So my customers from the US can send me dollars, and it is an internal intra-USA transfer, so there's no cost for them to send me dollars. And for my British customers, I also have a British account inside Wise with British, basically a British account in pounds. And my British customers, they send me pounds there, etc. And then inside Wise, I convert those accounts, those let's say amounts. For example, I take $100 and I convert it to very good fees inside Wise, and then all the conversion goes into my Euro account. And then from my Euro account, it has an IBAN from Belgium, which is inside European Union, and it's a free transfer to another bank, like, for example, BBVA or Santander Spain, etc. All those banks that are Britain mortgage. So basically, this is one of the ways that people use to transfer money. And of course, you can go on Spainguru.es and you can find a referral for opening a Wise account if you need. Now, let's talk about community. Number 8, it's important to build your community. We're talking about a lot of bureaucratic stuff, but one of the reasons why people move to Spain because it is a very live country with a huge community where you can make very easily connections with others, both Spaniards and also foreigners living in Spain. You can join expat groups, local clubs, language exchanges. People love to practice their English in exchange for their Spanish, but of course it is a social thing where you meet locals. You can have dance classes, sports, imagine everything. And even in the smallest areas, they have a lot going on, right? So this is very, very important that you start joining these things quite early, in my opinion, because opening yourself will make you feel at home faster and will also create a more robust support network for anything that can happen. And one of the biggest things you can do, and this is one of the first top regrets of people moving to Spain, they say, I wish I had started learning Spanish earlier. Everyone says this. Every single person that I talk that moved to Spain tells me this. So this is incredibly key, okay? And one of the things I like about Spain is that they're not pushy about their language. But the fact is that if you don't learn Spanish, you're missing out so much. And you will also have less confidence to move around, because the fact is that in Spain, people speak Spanish. Right? So this is very, very important too. And of course, I got you covered. I have adult courses for it's about Spanish for adults with discounts on Spainguru, and also online tutors that you can get. Maybe you can start with 1 hour a week, okay, or 1 hour every 15 days with Spanish tutors, just to get used to pronunciation, etc. And it is very, very affordable. And as I said, top regret from people moving to Spain, not doing that earlier. Now let's talk about the last one, the emotional journey. And not many people talk about this. Many people think like you arrive here and you're partying all the time and having siestas. But the truth is that as every human, you will go through different feelings, and you will certainly go through these stages. First of all, first stage is honeymoon, where everything is excitement and adventure, but then a reality check comes where you face bureaucracy, cultural barriers, and doubts, okay? And you will ask yourself, like, why did I decide to move to Spain in the first place? And this is where a very well worked or robust vision comes in. Yes, if you have already gone through that, you will have a very short, let's say, stage number 2. And hopefully, after stage number 2, you get acceptance, in which you start feeling at home, you start embracing your new lifestyle in Spain, and you start, let's say, doing the things you wanted to do. Yes. And tip, of course, you need to be patient. Most expats will adjust within 6 to 12 months while actively engaging with local culture and community. This is important because if you don't engage, if you live in your own bubble, if you don't communicate, if you are in Spain but not in Spain, this will not come fast if you're in this situation. So watch these videos as well on Spainguru.es. This is where I put together many interesting experiences from people who moved to Spain, who's spent in Spain a few years, couple of years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and they express and they tell you what they've been through and how they overcame it. Yes, and I can tell you, like, most of them, if not 100% of them, don't regret a single thing about moving to Spain. It is just that you will go through this, and the way to go through this is preparing and investigating. Other tips: be flexible. Remember, bureaucracy is slow. You need to be patient. Learn Spanish. Keep an open mind. Support network. Build it as soon as you can. And a lot of people say, they ask, like, oh, I want to move to a cosmopolitan area. And other people in the groups answer, like, why do you want to move and just be surrounded by other expats? Why do you move to Spain and you're not, you don't want to go into Spanish culture? My take on that is that you need to build your support network. Doesn't matter where they're from. What it matters is that you are surrounded by people who can help you. Yes, because and today I was talking with a family of Americans who moved here to the Granada coast. I will interview them for my Spainguru channel very soon. They said that people think that they will have to do everything alone, but the community of foreigners in these areas where they move, they help them so much that it's just like, don't think that you will be alone, right? If you open yourself. Yes, and don't put barriers to that, right? So yes, with the right preparation, you'll enjoy everything Spain has to offer, and definitely Spain is, of course, one of the best countries in the world. So yes, remember, you can use Spainguru.es for free. Everything in Spainguru is free. So take your time to check it out, because I'm sure you can find some valuable stuff in there. And of course, if you need to use professional advice, got you covered. You have there my vetted experts in the services tab, right there, first thing on the left. Stay in touch. My email is hello@spainguru.es. You can always write to me and I will always answer you, pointing you in the right direction, maybe giving you the link to a community that you can join, potential services that you can use, giving you my advice. Of course, none of my advice is legal or financial advice, just advice as, let's say a person that is, I'm not from Spain. I've been here for 21 years. I'm from Argentina. I'm married to an American woman, and I basically know what you will be going through when you move to Spain. So I think it is also a valid angle that I can provide. So yes, stay in touch. And now let's go to Q&A session. I have a few sessions here, but if you had to leave earlier and you want to leave a review on Trustpilot, there's a button there that will redirect you there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, click the bell button for notifications. And if you have any questions, please comment below. Now let's go to the questions that I have here. 1512. All right, let's go. Thanks everyone for joining today and asking questions. I'm not fluent in Spanish, and I have been teaching myself. Are there places in Spain that have a lot of English-speaking towns, cities, until I become more fluent? Of course. Yes, there are even cities that are 80% British, or at least English speakers. Like, for example, if you Alicante, for example, is super British. And I have a couple of articles on Spainguru, which is like where Americans or British rent or where they move. Basically, Brits, it's all the Mediterranean coast, including Canary Islands, and the Americans are more spread out over the map. They also choose the north part, Basque Country as well, and Madrid is a big one with the biggest city with Americans. But of course, they are not the only foreigners that speak English. For example, Dutch people will also speak English, or Scandinavians will also speak English. In Fuengirola, here next to Malaga, you have a huge Scandinavian community. You have in Nerja a huge German community, right? All the Balearic Islands, especially Mallorca, is very German, and most of Germans will speak English as well. So definitely you have those areas that concentrate a lot of English speakers, and international cities like Barcelona and Madrid are also very, have high levels of English speakers. So yes, definitely you can move without speaking a single word of Spanish, and give yourself time to learn. That's completely doable. I've seen a few health insurance companies that claim to meet visa requirements. But have you pay your premium from your bank account monthly instead of annually? Isn't it required to pay annually? So here I have like an example. Yes. So for health insurance, set your health insurance for visas, right? So this is my preferred partner. This is Carlos Blanco. He's not only an exclusive Adeslas agent, but he's also an immigration lawyer. The thing is, potentially, some companies, this is what I hear, is that if you have a Spanish IBAN already because you were living in Spain before, etc., potentially they can let you pay on a monthly basis for visa purposes. But not all the companies and not in every case. So it's not a rule, okay? If you're applying for a visa, you need to prove that you are covered for at least 1 year of residency in Spain. And if you want to get the certificate of coverage for the visa application from the health insurance company, you need to pay a full year in advance. Otherwise, they won't issue that certificate of coverage. And this is how that works. Yes. So in most cases, for reputable companies like Adeslas, this is the biggest company in the Spanish market with 30% of the market. Yes, like double the size of the second. Is the second and the third together is the size of Adeslas. It's very big. It is very good, you say, value for money relation, Adeslas. And basically, yes, you will need to pay a full year in advance. This is common things. Then there are other solutions that are a bit, in my opinion, risky because they have reimbursements there and you could potentially be denied. There's been some denials for those solutions that they offer monthly payments, but then inside Spain, the coverage is not very good. It's not very real. There's not too much feedback about that. So yes, in my opinion, you should go with reputable companies, with agents and brokers who will not charge you over. You will not have an extra charge because they get the commission from the company, but the price is exactly the same for you. And they know about the visa processes. They know about the timings, and that advice is extremely important, in my humble opinion. Now, let's go to another question. Hope that answers you. Do senior tenants have any special tenant protection in Spain? I don't know. Not an expert in real estate law or any law. But I think that if you are declared to be persona or familia vulnerable, yes, that's a condition in order to get extra protection as a tenant, apparently. But don't quote me on that. I have a Portuguese bank account. Do I have to get a Spanish bank account, or is my Portuguese account okay to use to pay expenses? You don't want to have problems? Get a Spanish one. This is my answer. It's impossible for me to tell you whether you're going to have problem paying something with your Portuguese account. There shouldn't be. The European Union should actually, after so many years of European Union existence, should make it clear that if I have a bank account from Lithuania, yes, in euros, I should be able, I don't know if Lithuania has euros, but anyways, pay for expenses in Spain. But then the fact is that there are some technological issues, there is some engineer, there is some legacy code there that maybe creates some problem, or some internal anti-fraud protection that are not very clear, blurry, that potentially block that payment. So you always have to be careful, because if that's the only means of payment that you have, then you are in a bad situation. So I don't know what to answer. Should work, but potentially should not work. What it will work is a Spanish bank account. That I can tell you. My husband and I are moving to Spain in July of 2027. He has a Spanish passport already. Great. Do I need to get any kind of visa as married but not Spanish resident? So you're non-EU passport holder, I understand. But basically, if he's Spanish, you just need to get a tarjeta de familiar de español. Okay, so you get that residency like that. Okay, of 5 years, you have work permit, and it's, let's say, quite easy. Okay, because he's Spanish and there is no problem. And then, if I understand that you are married, so you need to register your marriage in Spain. This is very important, and it takes time, so you need to do it immediately, because it can take, I heard, like 4 months, 5 months. And once your marriage is registered and you have an effective residency of 1 year in Spain, you can already be eligible to apply for Spanish passport, right? Because let's say the general 10 years residence period goes down to only 1 when you're married to Spaniard. Always consult with an immigration lawyer. Just 1 hour consultation, and you will clear out your doubts on what you need to do, exactly where you need to do it, and also where you could potentially apply, because in this case, there is a difference whether you're applying Barcelona versus Madrid versus Valencia. There are different, waiting times for that. Does becoming a Spanish citizen mean I have to renounce to my US citizenship? I'm worried about losing my Social Security benefits if I lose US citizenship. So, first of all, you don't have to become a Spanish citizen. Nobody pushes you to become one, okay? You could potentially just get your long-term residency, right? I don't know your specific case, but it's not like after 10 years, you become a Spanish citizen. This is important. Nobody comes here and gives you a passport. Second of all, I have many videos with Ainhoa Manero of Stern Abogados, expert immigration lawyer, who explains that the renouncement that is asked by Spanish authorities is not practically enforced. Okay, to renounce your US citizenship, USA doesn't care what Spain says. You're still American, unless you go through an expensive process that requires several meetings, and you need to pay like $3,000 to renounce your citizenship, etc. So in practice, nobody renounces their US citizenship, nobody, and they get their Spanish passports. This is as of today, and for the last, decades, this is what has been happening. So if you lose your US, you lose your Social Security benefits. You wouldn't lose US citizenship, as far as I understand. Okay, but you could watch my renouncing citizenship. Yes, if you search Spainguru renouncing citizenship, you have several videos that will come up from your search. Okay, so yes, I am an engineer, and there's an exam engineers have to take in America called FEEIT. Is there something similar in Spain? I don't know what that exam is. Sorry, I cannot help you with that. What are the specific implications of the US exit tax? if our net worth exceeds certain threshold, and when in the moving timeline should we conduct formal valuation of your assets. So, oh, what did I do? So I hope everyone saw that question. This is a question that is for a financial planner. So I can recommend you guys here like cross-border financial planner. So I don't know about the American exit tax, what implications would have for you, what's your liability. But here you would go to Finance and Tax, Financial Services, and you can engage with SJB Global. They give you a free initial consultation. So you can ask that question, and with the information that they give you, potentially take a decision on what you do or continuing with some more information. But definitely leave it in hands of professionals who are dealing with cases like yours every single week, because it's very, very specific to your own situation. And also, I'm having a monthly webinar with them. You can watch the recording. The last one was on the 19th. So 8 days ago, last week, I have the recording online if you want to watch it. And also here, you can see the recording here. If you enter this page, yes, I will leave it in the chat. You can watch all the recordings and interviews because they address these issues, okay? And they have study cases for cross-border scenarios. Let's go with more questions. Let's go. I already have dual citizenship, USA, another country. Would that cause an issue, or I need to renounce one of my citizenships? I guess if you become a Spanish citizen, is that the question? Would that cause, if you have dual citizenship, with what would cause any issue? As I said, if you become Spaniard, they ask you to renounce your U.S. citizenship, but USA doesn't care about that, and nobody does. This is not enforceable. So yeah. What's your opinion on the school system? Do American kids struggle to learn? Are there international schools? How expensive, public and private systems? So the cool thing about Spain is that you have both systems. And I met people, and I know people who enroll their kids into different systems. For kids for special needs, for example, I'm about to publish an interview with a family of 5 with 3 kids from Omaha, Nebraska, and one of their kids is dyslexic. So for that kid, they chose a private school in Fuengirola, okay? And they specifically chose Fuengirola because that school provided the necessary characteristics that they were searching for. So if you will go for something specific, private schools are an option. Yes, and so is the case also for another couple that I've been talking to. They also have one kid in public system and another kid in private system because they were searching something specific for one of their kids. Okay, they tend to be more expensive. You have all the range, right? So, for example, here the Lycée Français, it's about 7,000 euros per year. Some British school is over 10,000 euros per year. So that's the range of private schools, and depending where you move, you will have more or less access, right? If you move inland or in the middle of nowhere, unfortunately, there's not going to be private schools at all. And if you live in cosmopolitan places like the Costa del Sol, Barcelona, Madrid, etc., you have many options. So what do I think about it? I think they're both good. For worldwide standards, yes, then it's about your preferences, yes, and the specific school. Like in my own neighborhood, and that happens in the States as well. When you go to Zillow, you see the different schools in the different neighborhoods. You'll see that some of them have very low grades and some of them are really good. Same happens here, right? Like the school next to my house, it's not the best apparently, and 2 blocks away you have a better school in terms of let's say reputation, but it is not so let's say, based on data you can, for example, find the US publicly, right? So I think we made it to the end. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. I will send you the recording of this webinar. I will upload it soon to YouTube. If you want to leave a review there on the top, there's a button that will redirect you to Trustpilot. I really, really appreciate it. It really helps others find this content. Makes me happy also, of course, and motivates me a lot. If you leave one nice comment there. Remember, the content of this webinar is for information purposes only, and it's not legal or financial advice. Stay in touch at hello@spainguru.es. And yes, I hope to see you in other webinars. Remember that soon we have the webinar with Ainhoa Manero, okay, where you can ask anything, especially immigration questions, because she's an expert immigration lawyer. And also on the 19th of February, I'm arranging another webinar with financial planners. Soon I'm going to have webinars with expert health insurance providers. So, you're going to be covered by joining all those webinars. You're going to get all the information from experts and from the community. So yes, thank you so much. I have another question here. Exit tax. I already read it. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you soon. Have a wonderful week. Goodbye.
Oh, and one more thing. Apparently YouTube says you're gonna love watching this video right here. I think you should watch it.